deals with how to manage people, how to manage all the communication skills, government, banking, numerology, worldwide. Doesn't matter what your language is, all world leaders belong to the Masonic Order, and they act together.
$100,000 of lettuce destroyed. This is in Australia, where the same sort of a tale is playing out. Perth farmer had to plow through 100,000 lettuces into the ground because he had no workers to harvest it. See, this isn't just noise that I'm making. This is actually happening, and food is actually getting destroyed right now.
But believe it or not, despite the fact that Victoria has had another outbreak in hotel quarantine, despite the fact that the Queensland people are keeping the border up, despite the fact that the health advice is not there to justify it, the worst Premier in the country today is the Emperor, Mark McGowan, in Western Australia. This bloke has the worst unemployment rate in the entire country. He has a system that is so tight, again, family members can't be together when they are sick, family members cannot be together after funerals, family members cannot be together for Christmas, despite the fact that there is no coronavirus in Queensland, the Northern Territory, South Australia, Tasmania, his own state, and much and most of New South Wales. Instead, he made this announcement today that there is no benefit whatsoever in reopening the border of Western Australia to the rest of the country. The rest of the country that your Medicare card also works in. The rest of your country that your passport actually works in.
Honestly, the benefit to opening to the Northern Territory or South Australia for Western Australia is not there. There is no benefit.
Seriously? The free movement of people from areas that don't have coronavirus. It's not a separate country, it's a state. And by the way, there also may be, as he puts it, no benefit. There's also no risk. Because the health advisor to the Premier gave evidence to the federal court. And guess what he said? There is just a 1% chance of an outbreak of COVID-19 should you open the borders again to the Northern Territory, South Australia or Queensland. 1%. But then the most outrageous thing that this Premier said today is that you, the people of Western Australia, should be locked in Western Australia because of money. I'll let him give himself enough rope.
The other states want us to open the border so that West Australian tourists will flood east, not so that people from the east will come here. They're only saying all this for very self-interested reasons, because we have higher incomes, we have people that are more used to travelling, and therefore we'll have more tourists go from Western Australia to the east.
This bloke's a psychopath. This bloke is just as bad as Palaszczuk, because he wants to keep the borders up until March of next year. He wants the federal government to keep paying the welfare to justify his decision to keep you locked in Western Australia. Now, to the haters who will inevitably be sitting there and oh so comfortable in your COVID-free Western Australia, what's the excuse for not opening the door to COVID-free South Australia, the Northern Territory, Queensland, Tasmania? There's none. Whether you like it or not, you're part of a country. The country should be able to interact with itself. If you remove demand, your economy will continue to be punished. And while you may have no interest in leaving the state, there are people who deserve the right to be able to return to their state. And while you think you may well have done it tough during this COVID time, I want you to think about the families that have had to choose, the men and women who have had to choose between feeding their family and seeing their family. Now, I know most of you don't give a shit, but I do. FIFO workers have not seen their family since February. February. Think about the grief that it would cause you and your family when you were working, or if you are working now, if you were away from work for a week. Now think about a month. Now think about 2 months. Now think about 3 months. Now think about February to October. The families that have been separated because their mum or dad is choosing to feed their family versus see their family are the ones that McGowan punishes every day. This so-called friend of the working man. These people are the very ones that are digging up the dirt that is keeping the state afloat. Why can't these people see their family? Why can't these families see their mum or dad?
Absolute nightmare. It's cruel. It's cruel to a child for them not to know when their father's going to walk through that door.
Something needs to be done because it doesn't have to be this way.
I haven't met my wife Lisa and 2 kids and haven't seen them since February 29th.
How old are the kids, mate?
7 and 3. And it's just hard.
Premier, you want to do that big macho thing where the hands are on the hips and we're all West Australians? You're not, remember? You weren't born there. And just like other people who weren't born there, they should be able to freely move there, come back, come forth. Honestly, search in your heart right now if you're watching me in Western Australia. Are you truly cool with this? Because remember, the reason they are doing it is politics. They've even put flyers out trying to campaign about the borders. So families should be separated for months and months and months and months and months so this arsehole can win an election? How can he be so weak as a leader that he has nothing else to run on? Well, of course, it's a little difficult to run on an economy that has the worst unemployment rate in the country. The people of Western Australia have the right to leave Western Australia. If they don't have the right to leave Western Australia, then they are prisoners in Western Australia. And workers on their time off who can't leave Western Australia on the time they have off are prisoners. Is anyone okay with this? If you're one of those people that's okay with it, it's time to get your head read. It's time for you to calm down. It's time for you to show that great Aussie empathy and spirit that you claim you have. These people are playing you all day, every day, and it's always for politics. Matt Canavan is a senator inside the federal government. He's a man who knows the plight of the FIFO worker. Let's talk about this absurdity where the WA Premier is keeping his own citizens trapped and workers trapped so he can win an election in March, despite the fact that his own health advice is there's a 1% risk to the community.
Well, Paul, this is an absolute abomination and an irony from the WA Premier because he's gloating about the strength of his own economy, which is built on the back of those men and women who sacrifice time away from their families to work in our nation's iron ore mines in Western Australia, and then denying those same people any kind of dignity and humanity by effectively locking them up like prisoners for months on end. Can I applaud you and your efforts for highlighting this very important issue? These people are keeping our country afloat. Some of them haven't seen their family members for months at a time, and they don't know. They don't know. There's uncertainty about when they get out. At least when you get a jail term, there's an actual end point. These people don't have even that dignity. And I don't know. I'm not sure that Mark McGowan is going to be able to keep this show on the road until next March. It's a long time to go, and I think people are getting sick of this sideshow, even though they've enjoyed it for a few
None
months.
of the lending facilities established have targeted the needs of our agriculture industry. Now, why do I mention that? Food. It's coming. I mean, I can't see why people can't see this crisis. Food shortages are coming.